In today's video, we're going to be talking all about one sticking, the gear I use, when I would use one stick versus two stick. So let's get to it. My name is Clint Campbell. If you're not familiar with me, I run the Truth from the Stand deer hunting podcast where we talk all about bow hunting tricks, tips, and tactics. And today we're talking about one sticking, the gear that you'll need, the gear that I use, and how to rappel out. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button to make sure you get all the upcoming videos and podcasts. All right, so you want to be a one sticker. It's the coolest thing in saddle hunting today. Maybe, maybe not. I don't think it's necessarily applicable for all situations. At the end of the video, I'll tell you exactly how I use it, but the gear that you're going to need to get started is pretty minimal. You probably have a lot of this stuff already. For me, I'm using a tethered Phantom saddle, some cis haulers, some of your basic saddle setup. Where it starts to get a little bit different is rather than using your tether line, you know, your 6 to 8 foot tether line that you're using with maybe a Ropeman 1 as your ascender, you're actually going to need to get a longer length of rope. This is 9mm Canyon rope. The length that you're going to need is based on how high you potentially want to climb. For me, I have 30 foot of rope here. You're going to need enough to get to the climbing height, so maybe 25 feet for me, plus maybe the 5 foot tether height that you'll need to get up around your neck, you know, your head, wherever you like to set that tether height at. You also want to make sure that you take into account the diameter of the tree as well. So you get your 30 foot of rope, or your length of rope that you're going to use. You're going to need a quick link as well. They make a couple different kinds of these. This is a Kong quick link. These are rated, climbing rated quick links. So I forget exactly what the kilonewton kind of rating is on these, but I'll put this all in the description of the video below. You want to get one of these, that way you're not necessarily having to kind of feed the tag end of your rope all the way through the loop in a tether, so to speak. You want to be able to kind of quickly be able to get around branches, open up the quick link, be able to kind of slide the rope through to be able to kind of move around branches and quickly kind of get set up. The other thing that you might need, you don't 100% need, but you're going to need some kind of mechanism that when you get around the tree, when you put your loop around the tree, a lot of times you'll set it, and if it's a little bit loose, it'll fall down the tree. So you're kind of constantly battling that. So what I like to use is, I got this, I forget where I got it. I'll put the link in the description to the company, but it's just a little piece of plastic that clips onto the rope in front of my quick link. That way the rope doesn't try to feed back into itself and loosen while I'm in the tree. It just kind of keeps it sturdy. You can also just use this for a regular tether as well, but it's really handy. The other thing that you can use is wrap a Night Eyes gear tie around your lineman's, around your tether, and loop it around the rope where this is clipped on at, and it'll keep it from feeding back through. That's a little cheap way to kind of, you know, a cheap fix. So that's really what you need from a rope perspective. The next thing that you're going to need is some type of rappel line. Most of you out there listening probably have a bow tow rope, or some of you might climb up with your bow on your back. I prefer to tow my bow up. So what you'll need here is, I just have a length of Dyneema, really thin Dyneema, which is basically, you know, am steel, super strong, super low profile, easy to pack away. And I have 2 carabiners on each end. One is to pull my bow up. The other end is to retrieve my rappel line. Once I'm in the tree, I clip this onto a piece of paracord, and I'll show you that when I actually get into the tree, to rappel the line out. This length of line needs to be the same length, or maybe just a little bit longer if you want to be on the safe side, as your rappel line. It needs to cover at least the length or the height that you plan to climb into the tree. The next thing I'm using here, this is the most important piece of gear that you're going to have. This is a Mad Rock Safeguard. Now, Mad Rock makes a couple different kinds of, I think, the descenders or rappel mechanisms. This one is probably the best for saddle hunting. Some of the other version that they have has some type of spring load mechanism in it, where it'll give you a little bit of sag and a little bit of jerk when you're loading it before it fully loads and catches the rope. So the Mad Rock Safeguard is the version that you want. That's the black one. This is really what's going to allow you to rappel out of the tree. It acts as your, you know, kind of like your prusik as well whenever you're set up. But this is going to be the mechanism that's going to allow you to kind of rappel out of the tree by using this lever. The next thing you're going to need, the final thing, is however you're going to climb, whatever stick you're going to use. For me, I'm using the tethered one stick. The reason being that it's light. I made my own set of sticks where I was using a cam cleat to fasten it to the tree. I just never liked how loud the cam cleat was whenever I was pulling the rope out, and so I experimented with a couple different things. Ended up settling on the tethered one stick. They're super light. The attachment mechanism to the tree, some people, you know, thought maybe it was a little bit finicky. For me, it actually worked really, really well. It was quiet. I don't have any problems getting it on and off the tree. The other thing you're going to need is some sort of climbing aider. Now, I made this one and sewed this one myself. My fine sewing skills, you know, you can make these yourself if you're good at sewing. You know, go ahead. If not, they make plenty of these online that you can pick up to purchase. All right, so we took a look at all the gear that I would need to use to one stick and rappel, and now I'll show you how I actually get up the tree. So I'm just using a regular Sitka pack, nothing too crazy, too fancy. I figured I would show you how I kind of get up, get my bow up. That way you see kind of the steps that need to be taken and all the gear that I'm using and how I'm using it. So this is just a regular Sitka pack. I have one stick on here like I had shown you previously. I'm using the tethered one stick Predator pack. It's all kind of strapped on here with the compression straps. I get to my tree, drop my pack, pull this stuff off, rig up my bow with a tow rope, and then get ready to climb. The one thing I do, I always kind of loosen this, make sure that this is loose and open. That way when I get to climbing height, I can easily pull out the platform and get it set. I'm not up in the tree wrestling with that. When I get to the tree, I kind of set everything down. The first thing I'm gonna grab is my stick, unwrap it. It of course has the aider already attached to it. What I'm gonna do here is really kind of attach this at about arm's length whenever I kind of reach up as far as I can possibly reach. Same way whenever I do a 2-stick method, it's gonna be about 7 foot, this first kind of step. Just wanna make sure that you're comfortably able to get your foot into this first loop of the 3-step aider. Once I seat the stick, what I like to do is wrap this kind of around the standoff and just kind of drop it through this hole. It keeps me from having to reach down to grab to grab my am steel that I'm using to attach the stick to the tree. So a lot of folks like to use sticks that have like a cam cleat on it for an easy on-off. I just never liked the way the cam cleats work. They always made noise when I pulled the rope out, so I ended up just going with the tethered one stick. The next thing I'm gonna do at this point is I'm gonna reach into my left side and I'm gonna grab my tether, or my bow tow rope. This is the same rope I'm gonna use to rappel, or to retrieve my rappel rope from the tree when I rappel out of the tree. So essentially what you want is this to be the same length as the rope that you're going to use to rappel. So I'm using a 30 length of canyon rope to rappel and as my tether. So I'm gonna have 30 foot of length of my bow rope. That way I have the right amount of rope to retrieve my rappel line. So all I do here is just drop one end to the ground. I've got a little piece of paracord on this that I use to kind of attach it so I'm not having to attach to a cam or anything like that and mess something up. The other side, or the other end of this rope, is just going to go around my lineman's loop and clip in. That way I'm just pulling that up the tree with me so I can pull my bow up. I try to use as many things for dual purpose as I can, so I don't have one line for a bow retrieval, one line for a rappel line retrieval. Try to have things have dual purpose as much as possible. All right, so once I kind of have the stick on the tree and I've got my bow ready, kind of set up, it's attached to me, I'm gonna try to have this GoPro set up here on my pack. That way you guys can see my hands as I'm climbing and what I'm doing. But I keep all my rappel line 30 foot here on my right-hand side. I use just a regular tethered pouch, a cis hauler. You know, I think it'd be more convenient probably to use the roll pouch. I think they're coming out with one of those in the not so distant future, so I'll probably change to that. But for right now, if you just have a regular pouch, that'll work just as fine. I pull this rappel line out, and really what I want to do is I want to take probably like 6-7 foot of length here, enough to kind of just toss across my neck. That way it's kind of ready to roll once I get up into the tree, and I'm going to attach my Mad Rock to it. That way I'm all ready to roll when I get up into the tree. I can just kind of slip it through the quick link around the tree, and then I'm ready to start climbing. All right, so what I recommend when you first start using this, the same thing I did was I would go and climb, you know, maybe 3-4 feet off the ground, hang on my rappel line, get a feel of how the Mad Rock worked, what kind of resistance it had and stuff like that, and how quickly you would rappel out whenever you would pull the, you know, open the brake on it. Just to make sure you're comfortable with how everything is going to work and how fast this thing's going to rappel or how slow. That way you learn to control it before you start getting into climbing height. So I highly recommend you just spend some time with it close to the ground to get used to it. So now that I'm ready to kind of get ready to rock and roll, what I'm going to do here is take this Mad Rock, going to open it up with the brake to the back or facing away from me, open this thing up, and then I'm going to make a U with my rappel line and drop this in to the Mad Rock. That is how you should place it in. It has a little kind of guide here. It'll show you like this is good, this is bad, you know, this will make you fall, this is the way it's supposed to work. So they've got directions in here so you don't end up hurting yourself. But the way I remember is just break away from me, make a U, place the rope in, and then shut the Mad Rock, and then you're good to go. And then slip your carabiner back in to the Mad Rock. I've put some stealth stripping on mine so it's a little quieter whenever it's actually in the Mad Rock. Makes it a little harder to get in and out, but it's quiet. I'll take the extra couple of seconds to be quiet. So we'll go ahead and get ready to climb the tree now. Now, I'm not going to attach myself to a lineman's rope or anything like that whenever I first start. Typically, anyway, I usually climb to the first stick with no lineman's rope. Once I get here, I will pull my lineman's rope out. A lot of the one stick videos you've seen, people are trying to get max height with each move that they're making. I'm not super concerned with getting max height per se. This method for me is more about carrying less stuff in whenever I might be having to hunt and scout my way through to an area. Not necessarily about how quickly or how high I can climb. I'm always only ever going to climb to cover or where I can get the best opportunity, not necessarily 30 feet for the sake of 30 feet. So with that, I'm kind of set into the tree here with my lineman's rope. What I'm going to do is just take this rappel line, open the quick link before I throw it around the tree. Open it up wide enough so the rope can slide through. And this just makes it easy to where you don't have to feed your entire rope through whenever you need to kind of get around a branch or anything like that. Make sure you got enough length of rope here. Slip that through there. Get as much height as you want. We're gonna close this link. Now, the one thing I like here that I've added to this, some people will just use a Night Eyes gear tie or something like that, but once you get this as high as you want it, if you let it go, a lot of times once the slack is off of it, it might fall down the tree. So to keep that from happening, I forget who makes these, but I'll put a link in the description. This little clip you put on the rope and it keeps it tight. You can just kind of move it up against that quick link and now you're good to go, and it's not gonna fall down the tree. So now it allows you to kind of work hands-free without having to hold that rope in place. So now I just pull this down to me, clip myself into my bridge. And the other thing I'm going to do whenever I'm doing this is I want to stay as close to the tree as possible. The closer to the tree I am, the more control I'm going to have. So I'm going to tighten up my bridge pretty tight to where I'm just basically right on top of this mad rock, and I don't want to be too far away from the tree. So a lot of folks, whenever they start setting up, they'll set their tether height based on standing on the top step of their stick, and they're trying to get a ton of, like, I guess, distance with each kind of move. I'm less concerned about that and more concerned about how much movement I might make and, you know, getting picked off while I'm getting into the tree. So I'll stand on my bottom stick because I can more easily reach that stick to pull it up to me. I'm giving up a few feet, 2 feet maybe per move, but I'm making less movement and it's just more comfortable for me, so that's how I do it. So now at this point I can let this off, and now I'm ready to just kind of sit back in the saddle and take all the weight off my stick, and I'm good to go. Take my feet off the stick. I'm gonna reach down here, pull my stick off, grab it right here with my fingers because it's right here in front of me. I don't have to reach way back. It's why I only stand on that first step. Pull it up between my legs, move back off the tree a little bit. I'm not putting forward a lot of effort. I'm just literally using my feet to push me back off the tree. Now all I'm gonna do is set back down on the tree. I'm not putting forth any energy. I'm just letting all my weight in the saddle. And now this rope is holding my stick in place so I can work hands-free to attach it. Good to go. Fling it up the tree. Wrap around. Good to go. Now what I like to do, just pull out the bottom a little bit and set it. So now it's kind of cammed into the tree. Push back off the tree, get a foot into the stick, put some weight into it so it sets. Now most people might want to use a lineman's rope here as they're climbing up. You know, that would be the safest thing to do, to be honest, because if you do fall at this point, I didn't travel my rope up with me, which is not the best move. So at this point, I'm up on top of this stick. I'm going to use a lineman's rope whenever I pause, just to make sure I'm snapped into the tree secure and good to go. Lean back into my lineman's rope, and now I'm going to move my tether line up. I'm going to move this again as high as I can reach it. All right, so now the tether's back up the tree. Good to go. So now we're ready to make our second move. Now we're going to say we're at climbing height, roughly. And I don't know how high I am. It's 2 moves, probably say probably 15, 16 feet, you know, however many moves you need to make to get to the height you want to be climbing. So now at this point, I'll just reach back here, grab my platform. The other reason I like to use my lineman's rope here is because at this point, I'll tie this little Night Eyes gear tie around my lineman's rope to hold it in place while I kind of set my platform. That way I can work hands-free with it. Bring this around, get it in place, there we go. Tighten it up, take the Night Eyes gear tie off of this. Now what I'm gonna do is take my lineman's rope off. Now I'm gonna take this, put a little pressure on it, cam it over, tighten up my tether, step up, tighten up my tether, there we go. And we are now on the platform. Now that we're up in the tree, we're at hunting height, we're ready to go, got my hitch strap set up here. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is put away my lineman's rope. And now we're just gonna pull up my bow and get it up here in the tree with me. Once my bow's up here, just take this piece of paracord off, or this Dyneema. I take my quiver off, I put an arrow in. Use this little public land legal hanger for my bow, hang it right there. Then I hang my quiver off the backside. And at this point, I'd finish setting up my tree. I'd get all my camera gear out, set up for a hunt, you know, maybe reposition this to where it's out in front of me just a little bit more. Just kind of get everything set up for the hunt the way I want it. But this is typically how I set everything up, minus the camera gear and stuff. So at this point now, you know, the hunt's over, and now we're going to kind of reverse our steps to get out of here. The important part is when you have your bow tow rope, you know, during the hunt, I'll wrap this up and put it in a pouch. But before you get down out of the tree, you need to make sure that your bow rope is attached to you still. That way you have something to retrieve your tether line or your rappel line. So now at this point, I'm going to essentially take my quiver off, grab my bow, put my quiver back on my bow, take my bow tow rope, clip it to that paracord that's on my bow to lower my bow down, and then one side of this is still going to stay attached to me so I can use that as my rappel line. Now I usually want to move my bow out of the way from where I'm planning to rappel from so I don't step on my bow as I'm getting out of the tree. The next thing I'm going to do before I forget, the very next thing I do is I connect the other end of this bow tow rope to this piece of paracord I have in the tree around my tether line, or around my rappel line. I've connected this piece of paracord behind the knot of the actual rappel line, because when you pull, you want to pull the knot to you and not the tag end of the rope. If you're doing that, you're going to eventually have to pull this knot through branches if you're around branches and stuff like that, and it's more likely to get stuck and give you some problems. So what I did, instead of kind of attaching this, I've tried it a couple different ways. I tried it kind of putting the carabiner on the rope itself behind the knot, and what ended up happening was my carabiner just kind of slid back the rope itself and made it hard to get out. I've attached it to the actual quick link in the past, but again, it kind of can slide back and forth. So what I did was I just attached a small piece of paracord to it on the knot itself behind the quick link. It won't move, and now it gives me enough rigidness to where I can kind of give it enough, I guess, enough pull to get it out of the tree whenever it gets hung up in between a branch or hung up on some thick bark or whatever the case is. So at this point now, I'll just kind of take my hitch strap down. All right, so now the next part of this is the fun part, is coming out. You know, one of the best parts of one sticking is you get to play Batman getting out of the tree. The first thing you want to do though is you want to make sure that you take this clip that you were using to hold your rappel line in place up against the quick link. You want to make sure you take that off. The reason being is that you don't want anything restricting this rope pulling back through this quick link when you're trying to rappel the line down at the bottom of the tree. All right, so now the next step is you're going to take your length of rope, your 30-foot length of rope here, to my right hand side, and I'm just going to throw that on the ground. So now I've loosened this, I've taken this off to allow the tag end of the rope flow cleanly through the quick link. I've got my beaner attached to this piece of paracord to retrieve the line, so now I'm ready to start to descend. Some people like to just kind of float down, depends on what, you know, kind of fast, slow, kick off the tree, whatever the case is, whatever you're comfortable with. I always just kind of like to start kind of low and slow. You want to grab the tag end of the rope here as you're feeding it through, and it almost acts as a brake, just like you would if you were rock climbing and rappelling. So the first thing I do is just kind of get down below where my platform is, because I'm going to take my platform down and connect it to me as I'm rappelling. So this, same way I would do it if I was one stick, and I got a piece of paracord on here and a carabiner attached to the back of my saddle, that whenever I'm coming out of a tree, whether I'm two sticking, one sticking, doesn't matter, it's going to attach it to the back of my saddle. So now I'm going to drop myself down just a little lower, allow me the room to slide over here, get my stick. Going to wrap it up too, so it's all tidy. When I hit the ground, it'll be ready for me just to kind of attach to the back of my pack and ready to roll. And then I'll carry this down just like I would if I were two sticking and taking the first stick off. I'm going to just attach this to a piece of paracord that's hanging here off the back side of off the side of my saddle. So there we go. That's ready to roll. Now we're going to just come the rest of the way down, grab your rope, kick off the tree, give yourself a little bit of runway. Now you can come down as fast or as slow as you want. Some people like to walk down. Some people want to just hug the tree and come down because they feel more comfortable that way. I kind of do it in between, where I'll kick off the tree a little bit once I get going. The one thing is what you'll find out is, especially where I'm at now, and I'm set up where my right side is my downhill side, sometimes gravity is going to want to take you that way, just by the nature of the way the tree might be leaning or whatever. You want to always try to come down on the top side of the tree. I'm actually not on the top side of the tree, so if gravity wanted to take me to the right, I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to let it take me wherever it wants to take me, and I'm going to follow the rope down. You end up smacking yourself off a tree if you try to fight it, so don't fight gravity, just let it do its job. You just kind of go with it. Make sure your bow's out of the way, good to go. And there we go, we're out of the tree. At this point now, I'm going to take this off, and what I'll do is I'll take my saddle off the back. I'll set it just kind of out of my way. I'm going to do the same thing with my stick. Get it out of my way. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my bow, unclip it, set it out of my way. Now at this point, I'm going to grab my Mad Rock, so you don't want to lose that. Take this off, loosen that, take the rope out. Then I'm going to I always just kind of put all this stuff back together and kind of clean up my area before I do anything else, so I'm not losing stuff. So the Mad Rock's back in the pouch. Take my lineman's rope. Didn't use it on the descent, but pulled it out to be able to put my hitch strap away. I'm going to close that up. Now I'm ready to rappel my rope. Now I've tied off to that piece of paracord, so now all you want to do is you want to just kind of pull straight down and maybe to the side a little bit to loosen that knot up. And then once you do that, it should just fall straight to the ground. And then you're good to go. And then roll up here, get your carabiner and your bow rope and your rappel line or retrieval line, figure eight this all up so it doesn't get tangled for the next time you want to use it. Put a couple wraps in that, fold it up nice and tight. Goes in the side pouch here on the sis hauler. Now I'm going to take my line here. It's the other nice thing with having one of these quick links is that once you're done, you're out of the tree. You just loosen that up, pull your line through, close that back up a little bit. I always like to move all my gear that I'm using the next time back up toward the quick link. And now I'm just going to take this and figure eight this, length of rope all back up. That way when I go to use it again next time, it's not getting tangled when I throw it down the tree to rappel. Pop this off my elbow. Fold it in half. You don't have to do this. I just carry a rubber band. If I were using a roll pouch, probably wouldn't do that. Rubber band it, stick it back in my pouch, then I'm good to pack up my gear, my pack, my stick, my platform, my bow, and I'm out of the woods. All right, so one of the questions I get a lot is, do I one stick? Yeah, we just went through kind of how I use it, what my setup looks like, the gear I'm using, and my process for getting in and out of the tree. The other question I get a lot is, when am I using it? Am I using it 100% all the time? Do I kind of two stick and one stick both, throughout the year? The answer is yes. For me, one sticking is a very kind of specific use case for me. A lot of the times if I'm hunting locally around my area where I know roughly how long it may take me to get to an area or how long it might take me to find sign that I want to hunt, I'm going to carry two sticks because it's just quicker for me to get in and out using two sticks. When I use a one stick system, I used it a few times last year on a couple different hunts. Primarily what I'm going to use it for is whenever I'm traveling out of state or I'm hunting an area that I'm not real familiar with and I don't know how long it might take me to find a setup. I may end up having to do 4, 5, 6 miles before I find an area that I want to set up. So in that case, I don't know what tree I'm going to get into. I don't know how high I may or may not need to climb, and I don't want to carry extra stuff. So I can just carry a rappel rope and one stick and a platform and have to, be able to do away with an entire, stick. My sticks are super light, so it's not like it's a big hindrance as far as weight goes. It's just less stuff that I'm having to kind of worry about and take with me. So for me, it's more of a out-of-state DIY kind of trip is where I'll use one sticking. Definitely, probably even at home, probably more of a rut climbing method for me. Anytime I'm hunting October or I'm going to hunt close to bedding or something like that, I'm probably going to use two sticks because I can be just a little bit more quiet with two sticks than I can with a one stick. So for that purpose, I'll probably use two sticks. A rut hunt, I would be totally cool with using a one stick climbing method. You can get away with just a little bit more during that time of year. So those would be the times where I would and wouldn't use the one stick system.